These are the 5 must-read books of 2024. I've read a lot of books in my life, and these 5 are some of the most influential books in my life, the ones that have impacted me the most, the ones that have inspired the most change in my life. Let's get into it. Number 1, a book I have in front of me right now, Poor Charlie's Almanack. Right? Charlie Munger is one of the smartest minds of our time. He actually just passed away, about a month ago now, which was really sad. He was just shy of hitting 100 years old. And Poor Charlie's Almanack is a culmination of decades and decades of knowledge that Charlie accumulated throughout his life. Right? He was the partner of Warren Buffett. And in this book, he not only teaches you, good principles, financial principles, but he also teaches you just principles for life, right? How to go about your life, how to live a fulfilling life, a life that, is you're meant to live, right? Not following anyone else's path, not going with conventional thought, but deviating from what everyone else is doing and forging your own path, right? That's how Charlie ultimately got to where he got in his life, right? He didn't become so successful because he followed what everyone else is doing. No, he learned a lot from a bunch of different fields, right? He learned from physics. He learned from, psychology, philosophy. He studied so much. And he created these mental models, which he talks about in the book. And he combines multiple mental models to form his own, right? And then that model is the one that he lives his life by. And I think that's super powerful, right? To not just, like I was talking about in yesterday's video, be unidimensional, only know one field of study, right? Because you're missing so much more. There's so much you're missing, right? The different, schools of thought, the different subjects should be combining the models of other subjects into their own to create something new, right? To create something more powerful, more well-rounded. Like Charlie talks about in the book, how, business and psychology and physics and all these different subjects shouldn't be separated from one another. No, they should operate amongst each other. And you should pull lessons and models from each of the subjects and combine them, right, to form the best outcome. I think that's a super powerful message that Charlie put out. So that's the first book that I would read. I actually just finished it, and it was amazing. I'm going to reread it again, because it's super powerful. The next 3 books I'm going to recommend are all by the same author. I've been a huge biography nut this past year. I've loved biographies. I love reading about people who have done great things in this world, who have changed the world, right? The world's fundamentally different because of these people. So the 3 books that I'm going to recommend are all by Walter Isaacson. The first one, Steve Jobs. Wow. What a story. What a story. Steve Jobs is just unbelievable. Larry Ellison calls Steve Jobs the Einstein of our time. That is how much he is admired and looked up to, not just by, people who are younger and who have not become super successful in entrepreneurship, but even the guys at the top, right? Someone like Larry Ellison admired Steve that much. And in his book, I really learned how complicated Steve was as a person. I learned how, he wasn't just, a creator. He had a lot of faults as well. A lot of faults. He struggled with many relationships. He did things that, didn't look so great for, with his peers. And he made a lot of mistakes along the way. And it really shows you that these guys who've done amazing things, they're not perfect. They're incredibly flawed. More flawed in many ways than most of us. So that really opened my eyes into his life. And it was incredible to see how Steve started out so young in that space. And he devoted his entire life to the personal computer. And he had this vision before anyone else of what a personal computer could really be. And now I'm recording this video on a device that Steve created. I got another device in front of me, a MacBook that Steve created. And I got AirPods, which obviously are created by Apple as well. And I'm thinking to myself, man, like how different would the world be without Apple? It would really be different. So Steve was a complicated figure, but he really was a brilliant man. And he was a master salesman, a master marketer. That's really what got him to create all these products, right? And he had so much ambition and drive. He pushed his team so much. He created, the reality distortion field around him where, people were told to do things that they thought were impossible. And Steve just told them, no, get it done. You can do it. And this reality distortion field he created is what ultimately led them to the biggest breakthroughs. So that's what I learned from Steve Jobs. And I would highly, highly recommend you read his book. And I would also recommend you go online and watch videos of him presenting new Apple products and how he went about creating new products. If you really want to change this world, if you want to create something big and you have an idea, man, study Steve. Super important. He studied all the greats. Now it's our job to study Steve. And then one day, people will study you because you'll change the world for the better. Next book, again, by Walter Isaacson, Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk is one of the most fascinating characters I've ever read about. He clearly is making a lot of noise right now in the media. He's got people who love him and people who hate him. He's a very polarizing figure. I love Elon. I think what he's doing right now in this world is incredible. I think that he will be on the good side of history when people look back on it. Everything that's going on with his acquisition of Twitter, his defense of free speech, and just all the things that he's done in his life, right? Most of the guys that I've read about who have achieved massive success in their lives, they've done one thing and they've done it their entire lives, right? Steve Jobs, Apple, his entire life devoted to that. Of course, he went to Pixar too, but he was really involved in Apple for most of his life. And then, for example, Zuckerberg is Facebook, right? Larry Ellison, Oracle. Musk is just such a multifaceted human being. He has so many businesses that he's created. I have no idea how he does it. And a lot of people don't know either. It's just insane, the amount of things he has on his plate, right? Tesla, Twitter, SpaceX, The Boring Company. He has, I think, 6 businesses in total, which is just unbelievable. I mean, imagine having one massive business, let alone, multiple billion-dollar businesses. That's insane. It really is insane. And I'm pretty sure Tesla became a $1 trillion company. So it is unbelievable what he's been able to do. I think he's the greatest innovator of our time. I truly do. I think that his mind just works in a different kind of way. And again, like Steve Jobs, Elon has a very complicated life, a very complicated relationship with his family, with his kids. He has a lot of kids. I think he has 10 kids in total now that are his, which is crazy. But all the things that he's done in his life, I mean, going back to, when he started PayPal with Peter Thiel and how they created that, and he ended up exiting that at a young age. I think walking away with 20 something million dollars, right? And then, or the 20 million was from the first business. I'm getting it confused, but when he exited those businesses, he had all this capital to invest. He decided to invest it in new businesses because he wanted to create something. He's really an innovator. He really loves to build. And just watching his life story, all the things he had to deal with was with his dad. His dad was a very screwed up person, really messed with him. And Elon's relationship with his father really, I think created a lot of the drive, the unreasonable drive in him to create and create and create and never stop, just be relentless with it. And in the book, there's a few accounts of people saying that when Elon gets stressed or when he gets angry, parts of his father comes out from him, right? Like, he explodes and he says things that his father said to him that hurt him, right? It just comes out. And people are talk about how he goes into like dark mode or demon mode, and he'll just go dark and silent out of nowhere. 1 minute he's laughing and having a good time. The next minute, silence, nothing. So just watching, someone, first accounts of someone who we all look up to. We all say, oh my God, look at all his success. He's the richest man in the world. But he's got a lot of demons. Just because you're the richest man in the world does not mean that life is great, right? Because in many ways, I wouldn't want a lot of the things that he has in his life. So that's another one I would highly recommend. Next one, Walter Isaacson, Benjamin Franklin. Another person who just changed this world for the better. I mean, Ben Franklin is someone we all know. You know his name, and you know his name for a reason. He was an inventor. He was a great creator. He was a writer. He was an incredible writer. If you haven't read his book, Poor Richard's Almanack, that book is really hard to understand at first when you're reading it. I think I had to read it a couple times for me to really start getting it. But there's so much just wisdom in there. And he has a great way with words. He can play on words really well. Ben Franklin influenced so many people, influenced all the greats, the guys that I just talked about. Literally all three of them look up to Ben Franklin. That's why I mentioned him after them. Charlie Munger, his greatest hero, Ben Franklin. Elon Musk, I've heard him say, Ben Franklin. Steve Jobs, I heard him say, Ben Franklin. All of them, all of these guys, they all have said how much Ben Franklin influenced them. Larry Ellison, literally anyone you can think of who's ultra successful and has created something massive, credits Ben Franklin for really guiding them and helping them in their lives. No, obviously, he, really changed this world in a lot of ways. The founding father of the United States. He did so much in his life, and that's, someone we can really look up to. I'm still reading his biography right now. I got more to read about it, and maybe I'll make a separate video outlining exactly what I learned, the biggest lessons I learned. But, you can just see that someone can come from nothing, like Ben Franklin, and, just be at the forefront of history, creating history. It's really insane. It's really insane to look at. So I would read that book as well. And the final book that I would read is Principles by Ray Dalio. An incredible book, not just, about economic principles or, financial principles, but life principles. Ray is someone that I really look up to. Because, he's able to, I guess, stay rational in many ways. I admire the way that he looks at the world through a very rational lens. He is not a fan of, extremist ideology. He thinks that that's what's ripping apart the country right now. And I think that's true as well. And so he's lived his life in a way where he's avoided going to those extremes politically, and he has just stayed maniacal on growing his hedge fund, and now he is kind of stepped out from it. But, he devoted his life to that. And, he was speaking in front of Congress at one point. He admits in the book his mistakes, the things he's been wrong about. And I think that's really important for us to understand, that someone like him can be wrong, and he has been wrong in the past. And he teaches the lessons he learned from that, and how he realized that what he thought he knew was wrong. And so he had to reevaluate all the things that he thought. And now he had this lens that he looked at the world through, where every single thing that he just thought, oh, that's the answer, he questioned it. He questioned himself. He's like, why do I think this? Why do I think this? And then he studied history. He studied the trends in history, the patterns of history. And he extracted a ton of knowledge and insights from history. And that's something that I've learned too, right? To love history, to understand it, to see, all of this is history. All these guys I'm learning about. Poor Charlie's Almanack, Ben Franklin, right? That's all history. Learning about the greats, the historical greats, Leonardo da Vinci, people who have really changed this world, and learning from their mistakes. And that is something super valuable, guys. So those are the 5 books that I would recommend. Just to do a quick recap, we got Poor Charlie's Almanack. We got Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. We got Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. Ben Franklin by Walter Isaacson. And the 5th one is Principles by Ray Dalio. So yeah, I would go over those, read them, and then read them again. It's I feel more knowledgeable every single day reading these books, and I hope that you develop a love for reading like I have. And again, I'm really grateful for you guys. If you want to join a community of young men who are leveling up, getting better every day, click the first link in my description. It's the Discipline Institute. It's going to be a big thing one day, guys. Get in early. I promise you, if you get in early, you will not regret it. And yeah, I'm really grateful for you all. And my name is Isaacson, signing off. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.